Okay, so hi, um, good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you are. So, welcome back to our series of webinars. And today we are having the ninth international talk on green business, sustainability, and climate action. And this webinar is being organized jointly by the Global Ambassadors of Sustainability and the Global Green Chamber of Commerce. So I'm inviting Ms. Michelle Tapsher for an opening remarks.
Yes, thank you so much, Dr. Wassam. And I want to thank our speakers who will be joining us today. Ms. Kinga, Dr. Farah, and Mr. Kai, who will be here shortly. And I want to thank really just all of our viewers who are out there. I know that this is our ninth international talk on green business, sustainability, and climate action, and many of you have been with us every single one of those webinars. And we invite you to engage in the comments and thank you so very much for joining us. And many thanks to Dr. Wassam for bringing us all together. And we look forward to having each of you be part of this event and looking forward to engaging with you on those comments. And
Thank you so much, Ms. Michelle, for the remarks. And now we start with the first speaker. So we'll be having Ms. Kinga Monica. And Ms. Kinga is the founder of Earth Voice. So the floor is yours, Ms. Kinga.
Thank you very much, Dr. Wassam. I welcome everybody on the panel today, and also all the listeners and viewers that are also connecting with us today. So let me just begin by sharing my screen. Okay. Right, can everyone see it?
Yes.
Brilliant, absolutely, yeah, thank you. Okay, so today I'd like to start my talk about the regeneration and how organizations and businesses can actually connect to this ecological and social renewal. So I'd like to also mention that I've already presented some of the ideas from this regenerative approach at the just a few months ago at the conference, ecotourism conference in Mauritius, where actually I talked to quite a receptive crowd of eco-conscious innovators and entrepreneurs, eco-resort owners, but also other regenerative practitioners. So yes, I'd like to share, first of all, 4 facts about this regenerative model. That's actually already has shaped the new paradigm, and which we are co-creating today. So a regeneration model can be viewed through this lens of, how do we actually, become sustainable from the organizational or business point of view, but also going beyond sustainability and in creating regenerative outcomes. So just sort of stepping back in time a little bit more, we've actually presented this regeneration model, myself and my then co-partner consultant in London in 2003. And there was a response to a call that was actually issued by the Mayor of London. And, it was just, we responded to this call, trying to sort of help in a bid for London to actually host the Games in 2004, which it actually successfully did. Now, these regenerative approaches, there's also a lot of talk about it. However, at the time, we just got to remember that in the early 90s or mid 90s, there was very much, the environmental and social regeneration wasn't at all on the scene. And, today this model is kind of known more as the integrated sustainability. And this was actually signed in 2016 at the Paris Accord Agreement. And now obviously it's part of the UN SDGs and also informs the ESG performance as well. Now, regeneration model is part of the wider broader strategy. And effectively, cities can actually achieve those greening templates, which can enable cities to become sustainable, can reduce the carbon footprint, pollution, and improve the lifestyle of every citizen, of every resident. And in the actual fact, to date, as I speak, actually, Londoners enjoy some of the 70 concepts that were instigated, and some of them were rolled out as the commercial initiatives, and also many other improvements. At the time also, in the 90s, I mean, when we first started sort of introducing this as a group of sort of innovators, we actually entered the field as a group of innovators, not as researchers. So we're sort of prepared. We actually tackled this by building our own case studies and then actually putting the theory. So unlike the sort of researchers, which actually study the case studies and then, come up with a more maybe broader generalization. So at the time, we could just see that before this sort of green, the green mantra was, if we actually educate sort of 90% of people, everybody will become green, and then we can see this city or even nationwide greening. But obviously this hasn't happened, and we've still got a long way to go. And then I just did very brief kind of graph how that kind of manifests, that we have this huge emphasis, or we've had this huge emphasis on education, and we see the actions a bit shy. Now, if we actually, at the time we put this hypothesis forward, that what would happen if we actually, could induce, is it possible to induce this 80-20, what we called 80-20 shift, where we bring not just our organizations, our employees, but also an entire society, it's sort of entire populations at a society level to actually create this shift. So then we move away from this education-based system into the more of an action-based system. And this is exactly what this model enables us to achieve. And just the one thing to bear in mind when I talk about it is that this is for broad scale regeneration. So at the sort of village, town, city, nation, and sort of global level. So this model is sort of closer to what we're trying to sort of move towards. So organizations can also become not just sustainable and go beyond profit alone, but also move towards creating proper regenerative outcomes. Now, integrated sustainability and regeneration model can be viewed at this sort of country level, and here we have a number of things that are actually beginning to happen. So we see an exponential growth of our potentials. We also see that there's a greater pool of resources that organizations can tap into. And also these nature-based solutions, which obviously very much now talk in various circles. Now, we also introduced something, the concept which we called bringing about wider greening, but also, just trying to solve multiple problems at the same time. So rather than looking at the disconnected problem, one problem at a time, we would, look at it as a system. So it's very much, what we have here is the whole system thinking at play. Now, at the international level, also, we talk about the strategic framework from which to address all the problems, but, mainly, prepare the nations for climate action. At the organizational level, this can look more like, we have systemic change catalysts. So organizations and businesses can become those catalysts, and they can actually drive those, wider social, environmental, and also economic changes in the community. Now, also we have access to more leisure options, and we just improve, can improve the well-being and the wellness of people. And also, in terms of education, we creating these new learning and training systems, and also we can tap into them. So moving forward, I'd just like to also rewind to So what we're seeing, I mean, today, social enterprise has really moved forward. So there's a study that has been created, and what it shows that it's something like over 8 million social enterprises around the world, but the figures are closer more to sort of in the range of 10 to 11 million. And there is also a UK study which runs parallel to this US Canadian study which was done, and the figures are similar. So we know that we are in the region of 10 to 11 million. what's interesting here that 1 in 2 are led by women, and we can see the social enterprise is a huge contributor to global GDP, to employment, to sustainability, and also significant social environmental impact. Also, social enterprise can really leverage people's talents, not just young people, but also everyone across the board, and increase that cross-sector collaboration. Okay, so what I'd like to do now, I'd like to talk more, perhaps delve deeper into regeneration models and talk about sort of 3 distinctive regeneration models in action and 3 different locations. So yeah, we talk about the regeneration of the environment, the community, but also the sustainable economy. And this brings me to the first model, which is the business that my partner and I set up together with a group of people. And this is actually a social enterprise model, which is hospitality based. Now, this is quite interesting. We can beyond. And what happens in our restaurant actually we offered employment to unemployed youth, but also sort of older people. And this, this created real transformation, not just for us as a business, because obviously improved our, reputational gain, I'm sure improved our profits as well, but also it just transformed the other employees. It transformed, and we managed to scale up those positive benefits, societal benefits, to our surroundings. So there was sort of win-win situation. Now, also speaking of sort of economic gains, we were able to recycle our kitchen waste, and for example, the spent cooking oil became a resource for a local farmer. And because we were mostly organic restaurant, and also because we function as also hotels, backpackers hotel, we were able to become really sustainable, and by providing ecological accommodation and having these shared communal areas, and that all added to that general benefit of being sustainable. But we went beyond sustainability and created those regenerative outcomes as well. So that was in the sort of early 2000s. Now, what's interesting here, the schemes like these don't just have to be limited to training young people. We actually shook up this concept a little bit, and they can be actually introduced to incorporate a wider group of society. And in this case, for example, we actually ceased sort of trading in 2004. However, later this concept got kind of picked up by Jamie Oliver, who's I'm sure perhaps you've heard of this. Jamie Oliver is a famous UK chef, and he actually created his first social enterprise restaurant in 2006, then went to build it up into franchise, and he managed actually, recently checked statistics, he managed to train up something like over 200 unemployed people right across as many as 22 sites. So we can actually see that if you scale up, the regeneration is actually scalable, and in addition to being sustainable, we can actually pick out maybe one social issue or one sort of economic issue or more, and we can actually try and address these, and to become actually real force for change, and drive those and create those benefits in the wider community through our businesses. Now, this brings me to another example. So following the successful sale of this business, we then moved to Andalusia, where we actually set up educational-based model. So this is, social enterprise as well. It's a Center for Natural Design and Innovation. It existed for quite a few years. It actually closed in 2018. However, what we were able to demonstrate that by linking heritage restoration with the restoration of nature, And that was our primary goal of actually rejuvenating the land and using all the, biomaterials and using renewables. We were able to sort of really successfully demonstrate that by involving local community as well, we able to create those regenerative outcomes. So this actually, scheme here shows you how this, this kind of relationship can work, and how these different elements. This is very much multifaceted approach, and we kind of driving the change, but by working closely with the community, we're moving towards this regenerative mindset where we involve everyone. So, and then this benefits every stakeholder. Part of our work also was the creation of the center. Now, this what we call interpretation hub and sort of learning center. It was very much sort of this learning teaching exchange where we'd have also local community but also international participants interacting together, and we would create really tangible benefits for the environment. We were able to rejuvenate the land, but also for the community, but just simply involving them in a process. So we must have sort of trained hundreds of future regenerative practitioners and maybe also eco-conscious entrepreneurs that went through the center. So you may also ask what's so different about these centers, because the environmental centers exist everywhere in the world, and yes, this is true. However, the centers with this model at the core of the business do not actually exist today, and if they did, we would see actually entire communities transition to green economies at speed and scale, and also entire communities being co-opted in this process of renewal. Now, as I mentioned, this is education-led model, but this is very much practical education where we physically roll our sleeves up, so to speak, and we create those improvements together as a community. So this is kind of a more complex model. And the third example, which I'd like to share with you today, is a holistic 360-degree enterprise, social enterprise center. It's actually a complex which we proposed, as myself and my other colleague consultant, we proposed it for Bukit Luang in southern Sumatra in Indonesia. It was the proposal for a center for ecotourism complex, and also to save the very endangered species. We have the Sumatran orangutan, also Sumatran tiger. Also, ironically, also Indonesia has the least protected areas. So, this project is extremely valuable in terms of the sort of the value that it generates and conservation benefits that it generates. And also, it's an ongoing story of communities that is really struggling with big issues. So it's climate change. Also, it's the logging, poaching. In fact, actually, in 2003, this community was almost entirely destroyed by floods, which were allegedly caused by climate change, but actually was caused by, knowingly actually was caused by illegal logging. Also, this project, here you see sort of, I mapped out, how this proposal, how this project could sort of unravel. And a lot of these parts or components of the system were actually implemented, and we sort of started by improving what was there. Interestingly, the community actually operates. It's got quite a few businesses there. Hospitality and catering is kind of thriving, but obviously struggling in terms of in generating funds. So it's very much sort of a model which shows that when we actually place nature right at the center of this model, we can then create this flow of benefits, and we're able to leverage the benefits. We leverage the business, also resident communities' resources, in order to create this kind of enterprise. So main point here with this also is the idea that the community like this is looking to create a future in which they can actually co-create their own wealth and well-being. And here, they actually tackle two main issues. So the first is actually pollution, plastic pollution. So because there is, we work with the German NGO, which managed to actually turn the plastic waste into resource for the community. Now, this is obviously applied locally. There's the potential to scale this up, but obviously we need funding, and the funding is being generated on an ongoing basis. So, because ultimately what happens is ecotourists want to see the forest saved and animals helped. However, there needs to be some whole system thinking and so systemic greening that can allow this community to, introduce these higher, heightened levels of consciousness and, eco-consciousness. So regeneration here, the way it works, as a tool also for peace and stability. Because these areas are also prone to disaster, so they offer post-disaster aid and recovery. They can facilitate this post-disaster aid and recovery. Also, just to sum up, this actually creates this very much talked about cross-sector collaboration. Various organizations can actually really, get involved here and also become part of this process of renewal. Also, this creates true autonomy, because de facto the organizations can become sustainable and and also regenerative. So by generating their own funds, they can have that autonomy. Just to also sum up, regeneration is a great practical tool enabling this community to connect to this social and ecological renewal, using these highly advanced regenerative templates and blueprint. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ms. Kinga, for this interesting sharing with those examples and kind of success stories. So I think now we move to the next speaker, and the next speaker is Dr. Farah Al-Zain. Dr. Farah is an associate professor at the American University of Science and Technology in Lebanon. So the floor is yours, Dr. Farah. Dr. Farah, you are unmuted.
So thank you, Dr. Wissam. Thank you for this event that really sheds the light on a very important topic: green business, climate action, and sustainability. Good afternoon, everyone. It's an honor to be here today speaking among esteemed leaders and visionaries at the 9th International Talk on Green Business, Sustainability, and Climate Action. Sustainability is no longer an option. It's an imperative. As someone who has dedicated my career to sustainable design, innovation, and engaging with community, I believe our collective action today will determine the livability of our planet tomorrow. I'll start with a quote that really inspires me by Okakura Kakuzo. The art of life lies in a constant readjustment to our surrounding. And my role today as a speaker is to say, how can sustainable design reverse climate action by showing some examples? This is a brief sample of journey, how I started by volunteering for as a humanitarian worker. That helped me to know about human needs. This later on was reflected in my work and sustainability. And this started by a talk like today. I was inspired by a talk here 2008 by Dr. Antoine Dahdah. He was renovating the UZEK University in Lebanon, and it amazed me how he was doing sustainability criteria. He was adding sustainability criteria to give like oxygen 70% to the area of Kaslik, and how he was eliminating CO2. So this struck me, and the topic of my PhD was about sustainable design. And the third one is the growth, is how I'm spreading the word to students, to entrepreneurs, and to academia. So I'll share some of my work as an interior designer about the topic of my PhD, the Sustainable Furniture Initiative Green Shift Lab, some research works, student projects, and mentoring ecopreneurs. So this is a sample of commercial interior design projects. This is in Lebanon. I researched the company in order to be designing the car showroom of Toyota in Lebanon, in Zahle. And then this is also a research project about a smart utility frame where you can connect to your belongings. For example, if you're a photographer, you will know you have all the gear, you will connect to your belongings digitally. And also they have the concept of floating like in the aircraft. So this one, they can be reversible, they can be the trunk always will look like empty, since they are like you can locate them in different ways and in different cars to connect to your belongings. Also, I'm showing how I like to work on minimalistic design. The minimalistic design saves waste, since when you work a lot with curves, you have a lot of waste. And the first project showing linear lines, definitely I choose my lighting, the materials. I will talk about these later. And the second is a virtual art exhibition for artists in COVID time, when there was a lockdown and they could not access their space and exhibition areas. Also, this project is in Cyprus, and it had strict regulation regarding the glass, regarding the materials, the wood, and it doesn't need heating in winter. It has natural daylight. So I started integrating the sustainable parameters. This is showing how I'm interested in cultural heritage. In any country that I have designed to design a project, I look at their cultural heritage. I do research about history of this country, the materials, the local materials, and this takes us to the topic of my PhD. Back then in 2014, when I was studying, like what do we need in Lebanon? Locally, we have beautiful heritage houses, and they were spread all over the Lebanese territory. But in the city, they were removing them to place them with towers and the new constructions. So this was the first problem, that they were removing them to gain place for new constructions. Second problem was global warming. That is now a global boiling. It's not anymore global warming, as said by the UN Secretary General, and the greenhouse gas emissions. So I wanted to tackle these problems in my study. Furthermore, I looked at the problems and challenges that the historic buildings are facing. They have cracks, mold, a lot of humidity, they need maintenance, there is dissipation. And the worst is that in these historic houses, they are beautiful, they are bioclimatic, they are passive, they have passive design. They were adding AC to them to cool in summer, while if we really know how to work on this, we can take them back to their old property and they are breathing again. So I was working on eco-sustainable parameters for interior spaces. I focused on energy redevelopment of historic buildings, and especially in rural areas, since the city was saturated in modern buildings, in contemporary towers, and I really needed to focus on the whole area of Lebanon, not only on the city. Though if we have some in the city, they can be working on the same parameters. And this project doesn't only focus on urban or rural, it can be applied on any existing building. So I started from a human-centered approach. The focus is healthy indoor environmental quality using bio-based materials. and establishing a relationship between sustainability and compatibility. Why compatibility? To give the houses higher energy efficiency, lower consumption, and lower greenhouse gas emissions. A questionnaire was distributed and interviews with 100 historic houses, and they were paying a very, very high monthly fees for the electricity, because old houses, they have a very high ceiling, like 4.5 or 5 meters, and it's impossible to heat them in winter. They are very spacious, and they were using the conventional means. So this study helps because it is applying the non-conventional, the green ways. Also, I compared the international or the World Building Council standards like BREEAM, LEED, and Green Star. For example, the energy was the highest in importance to take points, and then health and well-being, and then the materials. So focusing on the energy, I started looking at insulation ways, like what is the best way to do insulation in winter, in summer, but using natural cellulose fibers in order to keep the house breathable, and also to look at the air circulation, maybe to create in winter a southern room that will heat the home, looking at and exploring shading systems, whether vertical or horizontal. Also, I found from recycled jeans or from wool insulation for the walls, looking at the types of glass, the type of lighting, definitely advising these houses to use Energy Star appliances. So there were a lot of parameters to take in order to reach the guidelines that this building belongs to a certain context, and we need to improve the status of this building. We start by looking at maybe it has a lot of humidity, a lot of contact with soil. We start separating them, and then we enhance the bioclimatic aspects. This building was created before the AC, so we want to return it to its original status. And then we look at the floors, intra floors, and the walls, and envelope analysis, until we reach a way, after using all of these sustainable parameters. And we did simulation, we did computer simulation on these houses. So when we went and took the measurement, definitely they don't have the drawings. We were drawing them, and we were doing the simulation, and we applied the parameters on them, on the BIM, and the results were amazing. So we took two typologies that are found commonly in Lebanon, the central hall house and the gallery house. The central hall house was, all around the house was windows. So we looked at each and every month how much it was using electricity in watts, definitely. And we were looking, we didn't consider the moderate months like October or September. We considered the extreme months, like in August, when the temperature in Lebanon almost 36 or 40 degrees. And we looked in extreme temperature in winter, when it is like 0, 4, -4 in Zahle, in villages, it's cold. So the windows needed a lot of cooling and heating, since this house has a lot of exposure to the outdoors through windows. So by applying these parameters on closing the frames of the windows, closing the dissipation, using the amount of glass and the right specification of glass, low E value, it saved 68% of energy. The gallery house that consisted of a lot of walls. Also, when we were protecting the walls properly, using the right insulation, whether from wool or recycled material or cellulose fiber that are natural, we saved 83% energy. So facing these challenges today, from climate change, from CO2 emissions, from the unbalanced ecosystems and diseases, also I looked at an expansion of architecture and interior, that is the furniture. And the highest emitting is the sofa at home. And what is the highest? Why? Because it is made of this material, and the foam is the highest emitting. So why don't we replace conventional foam to bio or eco-friendly and the textiles? Now we have a lot of textiles that are eco-friendly and that are bio, or they are natural based. So the third example is Green Shift Lab, a sustainable furniture initiative that I founded year 2017 in Lebanon. After seeing a lot of waste from interior design projects, I decided to regenerate and revive these old furniture and recreate from them. So the first table you can see on the left was a high dressing table that was transformed to 2 tables that can be flexible, reusable, and used in different spaces. You can use it for many functions. So this business is working with organic oil for finishing the wood. We work with industries who can give us the wood from their business. And definitely there's a collaboration with local artists, a collaboration for table design, collaboration for lighting design. And all of this works. Our vision is to recruit more green jobs and to work with creative people. Another example is this project that we worked with the master's degree students, and it got selected as one of the 5 finalists from UNIDO in Beirut Design Week. And this project was located in northern Lebanon, in Tripoli. We started by looking at the history of the city, what are the community needs. I asked from the students to walk the streets and look like what are the people doing. They saw them like playing backgammon, spending the time. Someone was reading a book, and there was no place that respected people who have like special needs. So we thought about this as well. And there were a lot of bikes in the city. Here we started connecting the city to the sea. There was a tree at the end. So our location was near the harbor. We made different flexibility in these seats, in these urban seats, and we decided to make them from the old fishing boats. So as you see the final result, there's the tree. So we did sun simulation for the sun path to see how can the people be seated, and we created another shading system. There's a place for accessibility. There's accessibility criteria, place for people to park their bicycles. The benches can be modular, and people can sit in different directions and for different needs for families. And there's one in U-shape for people to communicate and talk. I'll pass quickly on some researches just to highlight that I was presenting this in a conference, and the conference was about renewable energy. Everyone was presenting about solar and wind. So our group of researchers, we worked on geothermal energy, and it is really working well in Lebanon and some countries around us. I took some examples from Netherlands, Ireland, and Germany. And we were trying to see how can we eliminate negative environmental impact through regenerative geothermal design, since it has much less emissions and it's much easier to work on. Also, it works on the comparative analysis that I did to BREEAM, LEED, and Green Star, since energy is a priority. The second one is how did this research of sick building syndrome prevent people from having more asthma or more sicknesses. Some people have allergy on some material, and we did assessment for the indoor environmental quality at homes, schools. We took case studies. VOC, the volatile organic compound, were very toxic for people. So we were categorizing and looking at human health. This is a project we worked with British Council Lebanon, with artists, sustainability for emerging artists and industrial, local industries. And also this research, the Green Innovation IPR book, is published. You can see all of these researchers online, and it empowers entrepreneurs how to start their business step by step. So in this guidebook, we created diagrams. It's very easy. We tell them step number 1, do this. Step number 2, do this, in order to shift from the linear economy to the circular economy. And in the last research that we did last year with Cyprus, Japan, Greece, we were a group of researchers, and this material was silica aerogel, nanomaterial, and this one was more artistic than design. We were working on the Acropolis. How can we integrate on the caryatids the silica aerogel to show a piece of sky on these caryatids? So finally, I'll show 2 samples of students' work. We were having fires year 2023 in Lebanon and Cyprus, and my students was really sad when they saw an animal burning, and they also when they saw the effects of plastic on the forest. So we decided to create an app that includes a game. People will learn about the forest, about oxygen, about the trees, how much they emit oxygen, how they have foster wildlife, and to create a lot of activities in the forest, and to create rapport for community in the forest. And the theme was One Plastic Away Keeps the Forest Awake, since we were applying to the Raw Plastic Prize and we were selected as finalists, and we have exhibited this in Milan. So this app was designed wholly by students. Definitely the IT at the university helped us. And the students were working on the game, 7 levels, and on the information. Finally, I'll show a sample on mentoring entrepreneurs. This young entrepreneur from Lebanon, from the north, she was working on a beautiful business based on wood and old furniture. She was a hiker. She gathered branches of trees, and I helped her how to rethink the design, how to integrate sustainability criteria in her business. With Goethe Institute, I was a consultant there, and I ordered from her work, and I saw that they were wrapped in plastic, for example. So I asked her to shift the packaging to green and to recyclable packaging. Also, the chemical material that she was using, she was testing later on with bio-based material. She integrated renewable energy in her studio, and inside the city, she decided to use bicycles for delivery. We have also an entrepreneur initiative who rents bikes and who delivers by bikes. So the tech materials that she was testing, natural glue, natural paint, and definitely it's recyclable, it's reusable, it's bio-based. And I did for her a strategy to reduce her waste, reduce the energy consumption, and helped her to do social collaboration among her community. In conclusion, linking all, being a researcher, from the topic of the PhD that I talked about, and from the practical interior design projects, my vision is based on the collaboration like we are doing today. So the heart goes for the community, for the people, for the humanitarian aspect. User experience is very important to always look at the needs of the community, make them personalized to the context. Always the environment is at the heart of our study, to work on improving and working on circular economy. And finally, our design can be innovative, and we can keep on growing. Sustainability will help reverse the climate change, and I hope we have more of these events. And thanks again to the invitation. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Farah, for this interesting presentation with those examples and research, which is more on the applied research and showing how the academia can serve the community and can transfer those ideas to practicality and make a better place for the humanity. So I think now we move to the Q&A session, and I'm handing over this session to Ms. Michelle for moderating the session. So the floor is yours, Ms. Michelle.
Thank you so very much. And thank you for those really insightful presentations. We have so many comments and so many questions that have come in. So I want to thank all of the participants also for sending those questions and comments in. So we'll start with Ms. Kinga. We have a question from Indira, which is, what are the key metrics or indicators that could be used to measure the success of regenerative practices in addressing climate change and restoring ecosystems? I think you might be on mute.
Okay. Right. Yeah. Okay, great. So yeah, that's a very good question. Indira, yeah. In terms of metrics, I mean, there are companies that are specialized in measuring this, measuring you in terms of carbon footprint and, how you reduce your, how could we reduce the emissions across the company or, across the activity. However, I wouldn't stress the importance of actually, being able to measure this. I mean, there are tools, as I mentioned. However, what's really more important is, like, if you have an imperfect solution, it's better today than perfect one tomorrow, because we really, have to sort of look at this it's best to look at this in terms of, having the broader view, having this really, for example, my work is more generalist, so it's kind of linking all the different multidisciplinary approaches and, bringing them into creating essentially a new field of study or new field or new branch of science, that helps you, get the faster within these very sort of pressing timeframes. So yes, you can there are carbon offsetting tools, you can measure your own carbon outputs, your emissions. However, for me personally, I think the emphasis is on actually acting and creating those outcomes, for the community and bringing community together, rather than just focusing solely on the metrics. Yes, I mean, for example, if you run a hospitality or ecotourism business, then, that's far more achievable, because how much you're wasting, let's say, what's your quota of produce, how much you're wasting. There are many ways of, curbing those wastages. However, really, I think the emphasis should be on the systems of place and the strategic sort of synergy that you create between all these different elements of your organization, and then, just moving forward with it. And then obviously employing perhaps the outside consultants and, who can help you to put figures to those, statistics to those activities that you run.
Thank you so much, Kinga.
Pleasure.
And Dr. Farah, Mr. Arif Subarka had asked, it's a comment question, to maintain the sustainability of the environment, participation from all parties from all over the world is needed. With the participation of all stakeholders, this program will run well. Is your program supported by the UN and heads of state from superpower countries?
Okay. Well, thank you for the comment. We follow a holistic approach through design and academia. I'm not supported by the UN, though. This competition that I applied to with my students, and we were finalists, it was with UNIDO. I work as consultant to EU, to Goethe, the German Cultural Center, and I worked as a researcher with the British Council Lebanon, but I'm not supporting by any one of them. I worked on short-term projects, if you want. And regarding the holistic approach with the governments, with the countries, I really hope we can reach a place where all of us can collaborate and share the information. When we did the Green Innovation IPR guidebook, we were at a Mediterranean level. I was interviewing innovators from Italy, from Spain, Tunisia, all over the Mediterranean, from Palestine, Egypt. And I really saw beautiful things, like people worked on green innovations, like in Egypt on e-recycling, in Jordan on something linked to water, because there's shortage of water. So the beautiful thing we saw when we were all collaborating, we shared information because each country had a challenge somewhere, and we were sharing how all of us were sharing, were fighting these challenges, or we were finding solutions to these challenges. So I totally support the idea of these amazing discussions and opening the door to new topics and the future trends, maybe.
Thank you so much for that openness. And I think that we all agree that we need to all come together within this space. And Kinga, we have.
Could I jump? Okay, yeah, because I just want. I'd like to, if I may, I'd like to comment on the also to what Dr. Al-Zain said, that it's interesting. Yeah, the discussions are all very good. However, what I would add to that, okay, if I may put the spun in the works here, is that we need to actually have also, for these discussions to be really fruitful and to actually really result in action on the ground, sort of, on-site actions. I think what's really required and it's really missing is these focal places. So, the hubs that I've talked about earlier, and I just touched very briefly on something which, we've actually pretty much created a very kind of, future-proof space, and we call them sort of lifestyle centers or living centers. In fact, actually, the UK government tried to implement it, and then actually they announced it, but they've kind of shied away from it, and then actually, unfortunately, didn't do it, because we would have had this massive exponential growth of resources and potentials across all the societies worldwide. So what happens today is that, just to recap briefly on what's been said, is that we have these gaps, these disparities across all these different networks and all these different cultures and societies, where we could actually be bringing about this, if you like, even rejuvenation much faster. And because we have problems. Problems are sort of repetitions of the same problem around the world, and we all pretty much have the solutions to deal with it. It's just we haven't got a pathway of strategically channeling those solutions so everybody can access them pretty much at the finger point, and these focal places would really enable to fast forward and fast track and leapfrog our achievements here, our progress, and actually really spearhead innovation at every different level, whether it's a local level or global level. So in the past we had this mantra that we have to think locally and act globally, but actually we have to think locally and globally and enact those solutions, because we have these, as we know, these very kind of contradictory times where on one hand we have this growth of technology and push for that, and at the same time we have this the people in some parts of the world they can't even understand what the climate change is. They don't have the concept of it, or let alone to deal with it. So yeah, I mean, yeah, education, absolutely. But, it's just constantly streamlining the businesses in order to really effectively enact what we know today and not tomorrow. That's what I'd say.
True. Can I add something quickly? Since the talk is about business as well, our role is to educate also the customers. So as she's saying, as Ms. Monica is saying, to educate globally, community, locally, but also the consumer, because the consumer is the one who is like doing the demand in the market. There's the offer and demand, and it is based on the consumer needs. When we educate our consumers, our community, definitely they will have better choices.
You are singing my song, Dr. Farah. And Kinga, I'm curious. I totally agree. We need to be leapfrogging. I mean, this is an exponential issue. Why do you think, especially with Europe and the UK being far ahead of many other countries, why are they shying away?
Oh, wow, that's $1 million question. Well, maybe there are many factors, and I think there's maybe the better way of answering this question would be to just to say that what I've learned through also researching, but also mainly practically trying to evolve and really help work with others and collaborate and to increase our potential that way, in this way. What I found is over those years is that perhaps there's no unanimity in terms of thinking in those terms. Like some people think that if we invest in technology, this is the way forward. If we invest in education, this is also the way forward. And there's kind of the competition that's happening on all these different levels. And I think that really what this needs to happen is greater collaboration. And if there was a funding available and support and endorsement for the green innovation at the thinking the very basic nucleus level, when we start thinking up these ideas and then actually join the dots on it, then I think we would arrive at this higher awareness much faster. And what Dr. actually Farah said as well is quite crucial. That yes, education is always be part of this. It's not mutually exclusive. They're all mutually inclusive components of the same thing. It's just this whole system thinking. It takes a while, because what updates first is actually the language. So we're all speaking. So we are in as the frame already, as if we were doing it, but we're not actually doing it, or we're doing it in such a disjointed way. And some of us are very early adopters, and then and they move forward fast with it, and some of us there's this lag. There's this, lagging behind. And then just to really fast track this, I think that, there has to be better dissemination and diffusion of what we know. And I think that these centers, of these localized focal points, as we call them, and as we actually innovated them and, actually establish them physically with our own funds. And that's just, let me just emphasize here that we didn't have any funding. We actually went and tried to get that support, but we didn't get it. Perhaps we were a little bit ahead of the curve at the time. However, time is now. A lot of organizations have caught on with it. So what I'm actually saying now is nothing new, or it may appear that way, but at the time in the 90s, it was just really brand new concepts. And and I still think that today this greater collaboration where everybody senses is the right way to go with it. However, there needs to be spaces for expression, and then we can actually really fast track, and we can there's this exchange happening, and center can communicate center to center, because we have technology that it's enabling this. So it's creating why at the beginning of my presentation I said creating the enabling conditions for this to happen, and that's the crucial thing here. And I'm sure I'm just versing what most people and my peers as well are thinking, and want to see this happening. And especially people who work in conservation field, they need funding badly. And we're looking at how we can generate the funds, how we can become autonomous and independent. So how people, designers like Dr. Farah, and researchers and all sorts of practitioners can come forward and say, yeah, I've got the answer, let me do this. Without removing all those barriers, removing all of this which stands in the way of enacting this innovation.
Thank you so much, Kinga. I really appreciate that. And we're constantly hearing about the funding too. And it's just heartbreaking, especially from those of us who are in countries that can be helping so much more. We should always stand up as much as we can. Dr. Farah, I have another one from Indira.
Yeah.
How can advancement in technology such as AI and 3D printing support sustainable innovation in interior design?
Okay, this is a very important question, Indira. Well, we started exploring working with AI because we cannot close our eyes and stay in the past. So definitely we started exploring ways, though I support young designers also to have their own imagination, not to rely only on AI. AI is really important to give us how can we improve the design, the CO2 emissions, to tell us about quantitative numbers, about records. But I don't motivate designers to rely 100% on AI, since I gave an example to my students. I gave them a design, a project with the same criteria, okay, to all of the classroom. They gave it to AI. AI gave them all the same answer because it was not customized. So AI lacks this. AI lacks customizing that we are talking about, Miss Monica and I, about a community, about humanity, about this is really important. So I told them, you see, you all have the same answer with different colors. I don't need this. I told them, I need your design, your creativity, your imagination. That's why I started my talk with really enhancing imagination. And this is my role when I talk to my students, to tell them how to think, how to imagine, how to be free and believe in the unlimited realm of design and colors. AI is very important to show us about urban design, how to improve cities, about regenerative design. It has a lot of ways to help us, but please don't let it think on your behalf. And about the 3D printing, also we work on 3D printing using biomaterials, local materials. And now there's the MIT working on the 4D printing on the time. So, for example, a facade can be printed 3D, but if we want to block the sun, it can roll and close. And if we want to invite the sun in, it can open again. I'm preparing something about the design and the future, and maybe we can sometime else talk about. So we have a lot of potential in the future. We are always exploring and reading and researching, but as well, don't forget you're a human and you're the one controlling the design.
We cannot take out the human element and the imagination and design elements that come with that. So thank you. Kinga, I have one from Sadia Khan. Another question suggestions to deal with smog. Smog is now a huge issue in Lahore, Pakistan. What are the strategies to deal with it?
Right. I mean, okay, it's kind of rather complex question because perhaps maybe requires a bit more context. But dealing with smog, well, okay, I am not really a biologist or climatologist to say that, right? But way of approaching is to maybe link with organizations to to see what the latest research is on the subject in your local area, but also look for strategies by just see what other countries are doing. Perhaps there's something that was mentioned earlier about the harnessing the creativity of people. There are solutions. So the idea is to come up to, with a kind of optimal solution that works for your local area. Obviously I don't know specifically how big the problem is, but reducing transport. This is the greening template for your city will be probably my best answer. So trying to come up with a greening template where you reduce the reliance on the private car ownership, and doing perhaps having a mix of transport where you really creatively trying to answer the problem, not just through technology but also designing green spaces in your city, introducing biophilic design. There's many of possible solutions that you can implement, and also I think trying to get the citizens awareness program where you actually write to your local politician or your mayor. I mean, really, that's how we managed to get this our work across at the time, which was obviously almost impossible to put across because we're so innovative at the time. And by actually knocking on the right doors, and eventually those doors opened and we're able to present it. And just basically by asking those important questions, what do you do with our taxpayers' money? How do you, why do you think it's okay to assume that we can live in this polluting environment, and et cetera, et cetera. So, I think citizen power is a very important tool. They can break through that inertia, and they can then you can actually really innovate and add all the other aspects to it. But until people say, okay, enough is enough, we don't want to put up with it, then it's a bit of a difficult game.
I'm so glad that both you, Kinga, and Dr. Farah have brought up the citizen action. I think as the U.S. Green Chamber of Commerce, Global Green Chambers, obviously our focus is on business sustainability. But as you talked about, you can't have a business be successful if you do not have those citizens who are taking action. And some of the biggest action is utilizing your votes, utilizing areas that really do make the biggest of impacts. One of our initiatives is the Global Climate Pledge. And again, even though we do focus on businesses, the Global Climate Pledge is really about individuals taking action, because we do need those citizens to come in and start saying, what is my value system here as a citizen, and how does that interact with businesses? So I commend you for both commenting on that. I really thank you, because it's something that we constantly struggle with and try to solve, in many ways. Dr. Farah, I have, and I want to give Molly Kwamina huge kudos. There's lots of really good comments from Molly. So from focusing on ecological products like AAC blocks can help thermal comfort for different climates, and also smart glass and LED architecture will enhance passive design. Wish Dr. Farah could share this case study. So hopefully you will be able to do that. And then this is what social enterprise regenerative designs look like. So just really great comments coming in from Molly, and there's even more. And then with a question, and you can comment on some of those too. And then a question, I have one from Aisha Adamu, and they say, thank you for your innovation. Is this app One Plastic Away available online?
Okay, so thank you so much, Ms. Thatcher, for your really good way to communicate the questions, and for all your communication. Well, this was available year 2023 when we applied to the raw plastic prize, and we were invited to exhibit in Milan, and it was funded by the university. Even our trip, me and the students, were funded by the university. But this year we are trying to work on improving this. We're trying to collaborate. We tried to talk to municipality in Larnaca, and it was in Cyprus, and see how can we enhance this. And we're trying to also collaborate with Lebanon, so it will be moved one step further, and it will be relaunched again.
Thank you so very much. And thank you for your kind comments. We want to, here's another question using the 80-20 shift, could you enable now enclosed environments to grow food right on the restaurant? Obviously, Kinga.
So I didn't actually hear the first part of the question. We're using the what shift? What was that? Sorry.
80-20 shift.
80-20. Okay, sorry. Right, I understood 8-27 or something. Okay, all right. Okay, 80-20 shift. Wow. Okay, this is part of the like a broadest concept. Okay, 80-20. So the idea is to bring people on board. And question is why? Because people matter. It's like what was mentioned earlier, the citizen getting together and being galvanized to actually for action, and every single little action matters. So the idea with this, I mean, this concept can certainly work towards that or help this to manifest if you have if you really, if your idea is to create, just to go beyond just being sustainable and trying to really answer, for example, the food wastage. So yes, absolutely. I mean, 80-20 is more of a sort of a global perspective. So by bringing populations on board, governments save money. Certainly, the huge savings can be achieved across the board. Organizations getting also funding from the resources. So, for example, what Dr. Farah said also about the recycling, upcycling, creating all these, new value-added products, regenerative, more holistic startups, product services, etc., etc. So, yes, this 80-20 shift is more about, having people actively joining themselves to this process, because what happens now is everything is pretty much like the business is on its own. We have environmental organizations, NGOs constantly vying for attention, constantly also competing with one another. Let's not forget, this is exactly the story. And nothing has really much changed since when I first started in the early 90s, working towards and thinking a lot about these environmental issues and how we can connect the business to resources, people to products, people to funding, organizations to funding, and to government, and very much having that, governmental support, i.e. enabling the resources, enabling the right conditions so the organizations can come in and then do the job, okay, and then really rebalance. Some people in business call it very much pivoting, or it's really creating equilibrium. So we're rebalancing whatever the social misalignment is in our societies. So yes, 80-20, we are moving closer to, we're probably more than 80% now. However, there's still obviously issue with how climate change is being perceived, and also how, where do I, as a normal, ordinary person, can go in and actually devote my time, or, resources. Let's not forget, resources is not just about money, it's also about time. Your other further value you create through education, so you can actually donate free time to teach people how to do certain things. So, but again, we need this kind of safe container within which this can happen. And this is exactly what I mean by when we talk about creating those spaces within the community. Okay, it could be outdoor space, but also it could be, specially designed spaces that, enable people to come together and create that value. Okay, in a financial sense, but also in a more intrinsic, more transient in a sense, where we create the, even by people just talking about these issues, we're also learning from each other, and we're pushing the whole, if you like, environmental. We're giving that momentum, we're creating that momentum for the society. And then obviously businesses can also help us, because they have lots of resources which are being wasted, every year. So, I mean, at the time when I was actually writing, in fact, I've got actually a book in front of me here. This is the book that now unfortunately is out of print. Okay, but it's just about this model, and it presents the whole, it gives the whole lays the foundations for, and so psychology of how we can bring this paradigm shift closer together. Because obviously we're on this journey, but it's sort of early days. Yeah. I hope that answers the question in some way. So.
Well, it definitely does. I even see a comment from Molly says that he now understands the 80-20 shift model much better, and lots of other comments as well. So thank you. And it is a paradigm shift. We know this. And the faster that we can make that happen, the better. Dr. Farah, we have a question. What are the biggest challenges interior designers face when trying to implement sustainable practices, and how can the industry overcome these obstacles? So thank you, Indira.
Okay. Yes, thank you for the question. Well, interior designers are trying to shift the ones who have the awareness. Like, I wish and I hope that everyone now will have the awareness, because like when we were younger, we were not taught this at the university. It was like our we were trying to teach ourselves until I reached to see that talk, and it was very interesting to me. So I wish we keep on educating ourselves. Now, regarding the challenges, the materials availability, I might ask for a material, maybe it's not available in Lebanon. And if I want to ship it, it will have more CO2 emissions. So better to work with local material. So when we have local sustainable material, I was suggesting to have a platform for local designers to connect them together. For example, Kinga has a project and she wants local designers, because when you're working on sustainability, you need them to be like in 3 kilometers in your area or maximum 5 kilometers in your area. They can't be in another country, so it will be a lot of CO2 emissions. So the local material to be available, the local expertise. There was a tower being designed in Lebanon, and the very complex way to design it, they needed someone from outside to invite an expert to tell them about, for example, the piling system or about the advanced way to build this. So the expertise, the availability of material, I think also the availability of and knowledge of platforms, because if I want to now design a hospital, I want to make the old ways the same research. Like 6 months we used to do research, or to design a huge hotel, we used to do a lot of research. Now AI in this way can help me in the research, like to tell me for these beds, how many people, how many operation rooms. It will help me a lot, but it will not do the design for me. It will help me, as I said, quantitatively. So people need also access to these platforms and need to know how to use these advanced ways and advanced softwares, and need training. We are updating our university syllabi and programs yearly to add new softwares, because long time ago we were teaching only AutoCAD, then BIM, then so each time we're adding new softwares, so the students will stay updated to know how to draw their projects. Accessibility to as I said, expertise, materials, computer and technology, and maybe how to be on time and how to respect the budget. This is a problem in my country specifically, but I think everywhere. People sometimes lag on either on the time frame. Some projects are delayed by some factors, maybe nature, maybe political, maybe we have some factors. So I hope and I wish people can be educated on time management more and on how to respect the budget. Because if I tell my client, this will cost you X, I have to abide by X. I cannot tell them this will cost you X and after 2 days tell them, sorry, I have unexpected. This is not ethical. So there are a lot of things that interior designers should know. You see, it's not only about design, it's a holistic approach. It's about knowing about the environment, about the emissions, about the source. Even I'm a volunteer now with PUM Netherlands. We work on the humanitarian aspect. How does this company treat its employees, for example? Also, we work on the human factor. Do they respect their employees? Do they have equality among their people? Like, I'm so happy to see when there's a company or university or any institution who has equality, accessibility, any type of human, like respect for humanity. So it's a long talk. But mainly, please, designers, I really support and push that you know about latest technologies, even if you don't have to use them all. Know a little bit about management, money, time management, know about the latest technologies, and know about your local context. You might have a lot of amazing neighbors near you. Just try to explore the community.
Thank you so much, Dr. Farah. And I know we are just about out of time, so I'm just going to put up one last question from Aaliyah. Did you apply and come across came across ESG significantly in your sustainability endeavors? And could you please illustrate with examples on ESG application? Thank you.
It's for Kinga or for me?
Kinga, if you would like to answer.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's an absolutely brilliant question. Yeah, just briefly. Yeah, sustainability, of course, because the SDGs. So before even SDGs came into being, or were kind of first global millennium, then became Sustainable Development Goals. So yes, I mean, as a company, for example, when we had businesses in the UK, hospitality and catering business. So the first thing we did, actually, we looked at that, how we can reduce our consumption. So in terms of electricity, in terms of water use, we just looked at it in a very integral way, okay, to really minimize our costs, to also, there's part of also used as an education tool for the employees as well. So also motivate them, and and then just see. Obviously we were experimenting with that, so we were trying to see how that's going to affect us, the sort of the company culture, but also are there going to be positive benefits from that? They're going to precipitate outwards to the surrounding, to our community, and this is exactly what's happened. Okay, we were contacted by the, as I mentioned earlier, farmer who came forward and just said, well, look, we're going to buy your oil for you because we can feed our pigs on our farm. And that's in Devon. And Devon, for those maybe who don't know, is predominantly, is one of the second, probably UK's biggest meat producing areas. So, and we were quite bold with it because we were organic and, mostly vegetarian restaurant in a meat producing area. So you can just imagine what sort of shockwaves that sent to the community. But they were the very positive shockwaves because they could see, that we got the support because we were different. However, we were bringing something new, and we were saying that, look, another alternative is possible, and that's why we, today is very much we say that there's a jargon in sustainability, driving carbon down, but what it's essentially doing is reducing your impact and your pressure on the environment. So you have this kind of obligation as a business to do that. If you can also go beyond that, you can drive that change in your community, then hey, it's all fantastic, right? You're scoring the best points, in the playbook. However, just bring it down to practical side, this really can, put you in a very good position to win awards. Okay, and to also franchise, to enter, all sorts of schemes, and actually really link up with all these different stakeholders and players around you. So yeah, it's a very dynamic way of of streamlining not only your operation and reducing your carbon footprint, but also helping others also get there faster. So yeah, I mean, it's just such a amazing opportunity enact this. Yeah, in terms of ESG, of course, I mean, today I like to sort of think of it as a social, social, rather than corporate social responsibility, so social responsibility. So, we all kind of acting as if we were directly responsible, because we are directly responsible for, for the state of the environment, the state of the world that we live in. So, these ESG solutions are, from an ecotourism point of view, I can talk about this, in a greater depth. For example, if you, for example, you've got the land, which is, which you own, you can straight away put it to good use by rejuvenating the land, by planting trees, by planting endemic species that actually, encourage wildlife, which then, promotes the produce food. That food then can be distributed to your, it can be sold. You can create many, sort of trading schemes or bartering systems, where you can exchange of those resources. So there's lots of different ways in which you can really help yourself And in doing so, if you actually really focus on nature and then on your community, that's your purpose, and everything else is byproduct. But, there's a huge amount of fun and also, personal satisfaction that really comes from that, and then, your business can only be, successful as a result of it.
Oh, I love ending on this high note and all of the positive benefits come to a business, because I feel like so many people do focus in on the bottom line, and we need to do that as a business, but there's so much more that comes with it as well. So thank you so much, Kinga. Thank you so much, Dr. Farah. I'm going to thank all of our participants today who are out there online and making comments and providing questions. And, you are part of our sustainability family. We want to continue to grow with you together. We want to engage with you on a more integral basis. So thank you very much. And many, many thanks to Dr. Wissam for really bringing us all together. None of us would be here today if it was not for Dr. Wissam and the Global Ambassadors of Sustainability. So thank you. And I'm going to pass it over to Dr. Wissam.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ms. Michelle, for moderating the session. And I'd like to thank the speakers and the participants. So it was a really fruitful discussion today with rich experiences and stories. And there was a lot of engagement from the audience. And I think this is the purpose of this platform, to bring people together, to share experiences, and also to establish networks for future collaboration. And I think we will continue to do that. And the next webinar will be on the 28th. We will have four speakers, again, from various countries, various backgrounds, to share their experiences and their stories. So we'll be looking forward to see you again on the 28th of January. So thank you so much. And a lot of appreciation for your attendance and engagements. So have a good day and have a good time, everyone.
Thank you. It's our honor.
Thank you. It's very appreciated. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.